Welcome to the Beyond the Mat podcast, an in-depth talk show discussing exclusively WWE topics.
My name's Rick Boogs, and I came to rock with the Beyond the Mats podcast that is beyond the M-A-T-T podcast.
Welcome to Beyond the Mat. It's Wednesday, the 14th of September, 2022. I don't think that we've had an episode since prior to Clash at the Castle, so maybe we'll talk a little bit about that, but more importantly, we'll talk about the past week of WWE and what's ahead for SmackDown and Raw next week. Tonight, I'm joined by Brad and a new voice tonight, buddy I met on Twitter, Russ, and remember, any of you could join us if you follow us on Twitter at BeyondMattWWE. We'd love to have new voices on the show, especially fans and listeners like you guys. How you doing tonight, Brad?
Doing great, Matt. Thanks for having us on.
All right, and how about you, Russ?
I'm doing great. Can you guys hear me?
And we can hear you great, man. We can hear you extra loud.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Oh, Russ.
I'm trying to get myself over.
You are quite the pleasure. That is awesome.
You're definitely well over, man. You had a nice run in there.
Russ is like the MJF or the Miz of this broadcast. You know, he's very boisterous.
The Kevin Owens.
Yeah. I'm excited. They don't let me out much, and I don't get a lot of human contact. So this is a real highlight for me.
Oh, yeah.
He's like a caged animal.
Has Dexter Loomis been around you lately and had you locked up or something like that?
Yeah. Is that who he's supposed to be? Dr. Loomis from Halloween? Is there like a relationship there?
I don't know, but he's evidently stalking the crap out of the Miz, which I think, honestly, the whole storyline's not really my cup of tea. Guys standing outside the window of people's homes when they have children and shit like that. But I mean, I will say that a couple weeks ago on Raw, when they had the cage match and Miz was climbing over the cage, then Dexter Loomis was just coming out of the bottom of the ring with his blank face. I thought that was just funny in and of itself, but the whole storyline of him abducting the Miz and all this stuff and basically threatening the guy's family is a little bit ridiculous, but whatever. It is what it is.
Didn't they just maybe a year-ish ago do the same kind of thing with Edge and Seth Rollins? Or was it those two? Or wasn't it that like Seth was breaking into the Edge's house? Or
yeah, Seth broke into Edge's house and like drank some orange juice, and then that led to a Hell in a Cell match. But he didn't actually like continue. He didn't abduct him from the stadium or arena or whatever you want to call it, and then show up in the back of his SUV, and then show up in the window of his house with a hand-drawn picture of his entire family, which Dexter Loomis is a really good artist by hand. So there's that, and it's just a little bit weird.
And that's the guy you're comparing me to? No, hold on. No, I think I might have come off incorrectly at first.
Well, you
I'd like to
compared
see more of
yourself
you
to
guys.
him because you said that
open your blind.
they don't let you out.
Oh, that's true.
We didn't compare you to him. We compared you to the Miz being abducted by him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I am the victim. That's for sure.
That's right. You are the victim. All right. So anyway, man, let's get back to SmackDown of last week. And matter of fact, before we get into that, it's been reported that WWE does not want Roman Reigns to drop either of the title belts and wants him to remain the undisputed Universal Champion until or through next year's WrestleMania in Southern California at SoFi Stadium. And obviously, the heavily rumored match for that show is Roman Reigns versus The Rock. I've also, we've all heard or all speculated that Cody Rhodes would face Roman Reigns at some time or another and be somebody who would defeat him at least for one of the championships, if not the undisputed title belt. What do you guys think of the idea of him facing The Rock night 2 and Cody Rhodes returning at the Royal Rumble, winning it, challenging Roman Reigns for maybe just the WWE title belt on night 1 and probably winning that match, and then the Roman Reigns facing The Rock on night 2, but retaining the Universal Championship. So that way at the end of WrestleMania, although Reigns drops the WWE title to Cody Rhodes and Cody Rhodes gets to complete his, wonderful story of winning the title that his father never did at WrestleMania, Roman Reigns still reigns supreme, no pun intended, at the end of WrestleMania by defeating Dwayne Johnson.
I think it's feasible and it's plausible. I just don't know. Look, again, the minute we've talked about this on the show, but the minute you have a match that is only for one title, you know what's going to happen. I mean, there's no way that anything could be telegraphed any easier than that. I think the only way to do this sufficiently is to have some sort of situation where Cody's out there and then The Rock comes out there and Cody says, I want my championship. And Rock says, well, I'm not challenging for anything less than the championship. And that's how you get those matches where you don't know which one is going to, he's going to lose. You follow me? So my point is that if Cody Rhodes comes out there and says, I want a shot at my title, immediately after you have to have The Rock interject himself. You can't do it like Cody wins the Rumble and then the next week The Rock gets in. It can't be like that. It has to be almost instantaneous where you don't know which title Roman's dropping at all, whether it's one or the other. Because once you have a match for one belt and that's all that is telegraphed, you know what's happening.
But yeah, all along I said that the best way to do this is to put him in a triple threat match and have both titles on the line in 2 different falls, much like they did years ago with Jericho and Kurt Angle and Benoit, with the European and the Intercontinental title both on the line at the same time. The first fall went Intercontinental champion, second fall went for the European. And then that way you could have somebody pin whoever, win one of the belts, and then somebody pin whoever and win the other belt. But the other thing is, and I'll ask you, Russ, this: do you think that Cody Rhodes or whomever defeats Roman Reigns to beat him for the first time will strip him of the undisputed championship altogether, and then he'll face The Rock for no title, or just have no title, and then that person is the person who they split the belts from?
Well, that's a heck of a question, because it kind of assumes the outcome already, and I'm not sure the outcome is. I'm not sold on. It sounds crazy, but I'm not sold on Roman losing it. I'm not sure that's gonna happen. Like, I don't know. There's so many what ifs. Like, do they really want to split the titles up? There could be a line of thinking that says they want to unify it and have one title between 2 shows. Maybe that is what they want to do. and not have two separate titles. If The Rock wins it, it seems like if he wins anything, much less a title, much less both. Is he going to start working a program, or what is that? What's the payoff there?
There's no way. There's no way The Rock could maintain any kind of schedule with the WWE, given his Hollywood obligations and XFL and all that shit. But I would think that I would think that somebody, whether it's Rollins, whether it's fucking KO, whether it's fucking Cody Rhodes, whether it's whoever whether it's McIntyre beating him for both titles, the Undisputed Championship, that doesn't necessarily telegraph who's going to win the match ahead of time. And then that person can lose it however they figure they want to lose it, or Roman Reigns can challenge him back for one of them. I don't know. I mean, the whole fucking thing. I'll let you keep going on what you were going to say, and then I'm going to tell you how I feel about Roman Reigns' reign now, as opposed to how I felt about it probably 6 to 12 months ago. But finish your thought there, Russ.
Well, mine, it's just rumored about The Rock, right? This is not, I mean, I almost feel like the WWF has to get away from The Rock in a sense. Like, it's great to have him back or whatever, but come on, I don't know. I mean, how much excitement? My son likes The Rock in his movies, but I can't see him being too hyped about seeing him at WrestleMania necessarily. And I feel like a lot of people are like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would, and I don't know. The prospects are like, can Cody Rhodes really carry the ball at this stage? Is he that charismatic? I know we haven't seen him, due to injury and stuff, but I don't know. It's so hard to speculate right now. So I really just don't know.
I mean, I tend to answer. Yeah, it's okay. I tend to agree with you about Cody Rhodes. They were in the process of building him to somebody that you could believe could carry something. And in my opinion, right now, no. I mean, I don't see him beating Roman Reigns in the ring. Now, is Roman Reigns some kind of masterful in-ring storyteller? No. And that's what I'm about to get into. Every single one of his matches is 90% finishing moves that the opponent kicks out of, and then he ends up winning in a fashion that isn't clean unless it's Riddle. I mean, and I think that more of his title defenses over the course of this over 2-year title run should have been situations where he won clean. Perfect example of it. And the reason this comes to mind is because I'm going to Extreme Rules in October. Last year's Extreme Rules, he faces Finn Balor, Demon Finn Balor, and Finn Balor loses because the fucking ropes fall apart when he's trying to do the coup de grace. That didn't need to happen. Roman Reigns is perfectly capable of beating Finn Balor clean in the middle of the damn ring. He's perfectly capable of beating a lot of his opponents clean in the middle of the ring. Drew McIntyre, no. They need to pull him out of. They need somebody there to ruin it. The Usos or whatever to pull him out of the ring. But he fought Xavier Woods of the fucking New Day on SmackDown. They had a great match. Xavier Woods hit a coast-to-coast elbow on him, had him pinned, and the Usos pulled the fucking ref out of the ring. He does not need help to beat Woods. He just doesn't. And so I understand that's a heel tactic, but as a dominant champion in where he's positioned, every match doesn't need to be won with the heel cheating tactics. He can just dominate the match, just like he did at WrestleMania, not this past one, but the year ago, when Edge went totally overboard trying to get all crazy with the concerto, and then it caused Roman Reigns to, have the opening to hit the spear and stack him and Daniel Bryan, and he won that one clean. He can win matches clean. He doesn't always need to have some sort of assistance. Against Lesnar, sure, he could use assistance. Now, at WrestleMania, he didn't. He won with one single spear after 10 minutes. So, and I just think that at Clash at the Castle, they had that whole fucking place busting a nut over Drew McIntyre and the possibility of him winning and all this build up into it. He comes out partying the damn Red Sea like Moses with the, the freaking fans. That's what you would have thought he was. The place is going nuts, chanting his name the whole time. He honestly out wrestled Roman Reigns the entire time. And when Solo Sikoa pulled that motherfucker out of the ring when they were going for the 3 count, and then more importantly, when McIntyre took the 3 count, that place died. And it did not rejuvenate them just because Tyson Fury came in there and sang American Pie by John McClane. I thought was freaking stupid. I understand Tyson Fury does that shit after he wins boxing matches, but he does it after he wins boxing matches, not after he loses. And
shakes the heel champion's hand, puts him over.
Yeah. If anything, why didn't Tyson Fury knock Roman Reigns the hell out and send the fans home happy after he won the match by cheating?
Knock somebody out. Knock Solo Sikoa out. Knock somebody.
Yeah. Instead of, I feel him knocking out Theory, and Brad called that actually before. He said, maybe Theory will try to cash in and just get knocked out by Tyson Fury, and that happened, and it was funny as hell. But I just don't. With Roman Reigns, yes, the character, he's done great work. Things like that, he's improved tenfold over what he used to be. He's a great heel character, and I think part of the reason why he needs to be the champion right now is because he isn't the in-ring work rate guy that somebody like McIntyre is, or a lot of guys are. The championship actually makes him better and more important than he really honestly is without it. Because without it, what is he?
There's that old adage that I guess Bruce Pritchard always hypes on. He says that some people the belt makes and some people make the belt, right? And I think the belt definitely makes Roman Reigns for sure. Being champion makes his whole character. Without it, where are we at here? But with it, it's everything for him. So.
Yeah, but you could look at it the other way too, because when Roman had the Universal title, that was a title that no one thought was, the most important championship in WWE. And then when Roman had it, when he only had the Universal title, I'm talking about, for all of those months, it was clear which belt was the most important one. It was not the WWE championship for many, many, many months. So, you could look at that both ways.
But was that because of him, or because they were putting it on people like Big E and shit like that, the WWE one?
Look, man, I know plenty of casual people that I've gotten into wrestling, like friends and neighbors and family members. And I'll tell you that to the casual person, not the person like, you who's been watching this 20 years or whatever the case is, or, maybe someone like a Russ or the hardcore person. But to most people, they get excited about seeing Roman, and they don't really give a shit about a lot of the other acts. And I don't think that's warranted, but I could tell you that he makes you care a lot about his matches. And it's not just because the championship's on the line. It's because of the way he builds, the way he acts, the way he carries himself and portrays this character, which, I've heard a lot of people say, that really the storytelling is more important than the in-ring work at the end of the day. And I really believe that. Like, you could be Ricochet and do all sorts of flips and stunts and amazing moves that a guy like Roman could never do. And, is he the best wrestler? Certainly not. It's the guy who tells the best story. And I think that's where Roman has everyone beat. Everyone.
I agree on the character aspect of Roman Reigns and the storyline aspect of him outside of the ring, but the psychology in the ring is not up to par to a lot of guys. I mean, Cody Rhodes is better in ring storytelling and psychology. Rollins does, Owens does, even Chad Gable is a better in ring storyteller than Roman Reigns. Like I said, Roman Reigns' matches are spear, Superman punch, let the other guy beat the hell out of me, come out of nowhere with an uppercut, spear, guy kicks out, guy beats the shit out of me, has me beat, Usos pulling me out of the ring, and then I blindside him with another spear, match over. And then you get a match like the Riddle match where it's a very good match back and forth. And then Riddle makes the mistake of trying to hit a springboard knee, eats a spear midair, and gets beat clean in the middle of the ring. So my argument is, really, regardless of whether he's that competent in the ring or not, he should have built up more clean wins over the course of this championship run. I agree with you that he's a captivating character, especially to people who are casual fan. I mean, you don't have to even make that. There's no argument to be made there. When he gets introduced, when the bloodline music, when his music turns on, everybody in the state arena gets on their feet to see Roman Reigns. He is portrayed as the top guy. Having the Universal Championship or having the Undisputed Championship is an important thing, and it makes him the top guy, undisputed, no questions asked, and you don't have this other trinket championship on the other brand that really means nothing. But at the same time, we all know that, or at least we've all heard, I think, that, both networks want a main title on their show. And I think in the locker room, the performers want to have a title at least on a guy who shows up and isn't on a part-time contract that Vince McMahon gave him before he had to retire. So the whole conundrum here is that you have a guy who is presented as and deserves to be presented as the top guy, and he is the top guy, but he's not around enough to be the top guy. And it's the same problem we had with Brock Lesnar years ago. How do you feel about that, Russ?
Lesnar is such an anomaly in that way. Like, there's so many things that I think were handled oddly with that. But what you're saying about like the top guy not around enough, didn't Roman just say, I think, I might be wrong about this, but I think he said, I've defended this title 14 times since I've had it. Does that sound right to you guys? In almost 2 years? That would be, if one pay-per-view a month would be 24. Do you think he's done it about every other with that, and maybe some SmackDowns and stuff? That
it was more
right?
than that. It wasn't 14. It was like
more than that.
21 or something. Yeah.
Okay. But still, it's not like, 100 or however much I think it might need to be. So I totally get your point about it not, not being there enough. I mean, of course, it's the flag banner of the brand. So,
I
don't know. What can I, go ahead, Brett.
Go ahead, Russ.
Well, I was going to kind of transition away from this by asking, like, we've been talking for a little while here, just about Roman Reigns, just about, the future regarding him and the championships and what it means and all this. Is there anyone, because I don't really watch Raw, is there anyone on Raw that we would spend this much time talking about in a positive kind of way, like devoting this much energy to? Is there any storyline on Raw that would warrant this kind of conversation between us?
Well,
is there anything going on Raw in the past?
We're going to get to a really good promo that Kevin Owens had this past week. Kevin Owens is pretty big on Raw right now. Seth Rollins is obviously mainstay there as well. Austin Theory is up and coming. That's who Kevin Owens cut the promo on. We also have a guy like Riddle on Raw. Randy Orton's out with injury. Bobby Lashley is the United States champion. He's somebody that I would like to see face Roman Reigns, who hasn't. You know, so there's guys like that. That would that.
And Cody was a Raw.
And Cody Rhodes, they were building on Raw, so they have stars over there. Raw has plenty of star power. So it's just.
I guess I wasn't saying star power. I guess I was saying is there as much compelling narrative or anything going on Raw?
I would argue there's more because they have 3 hours to tell it, and you get way better content with the women there when they decide to give it to you. Kevin Owens is now babyface. He's great there. Lashley, great Universal Championship or Universal Champion holder. Rollins, is basically bulletproof there. And, you have the Money in the Bank winner on that show as well. The Street Profits are a good tag team. I mentioned Riddle already. Judgment Day is sort of starting to come into their own as a faction. Whether you like them or not, they definitely are more, they're just presented better than they were before, and they're more palatable, in my opinion. Dominic Mysterio finally has turned heel on his father, and Rhea Ripley has turned him into a man, whatever that means. But before we do get to Raw, we're going to take a break in a moment. But before we do that, talk about how SmackDown ended. SmackDown ended with Solo Sikoa having his first match with Drew McIntyre. You got the whole bloodline out there. They decide they're going to interfere in the match. Then you have the Street Profits run in after they already had a match earlier in the night with Hit Row, which I like to call Shit Row. Not to offend anybody who's a fan of them, but I'm not. I have no problem with hip hop music. I have no problem with anything, but I do have a problem with people trying to rap on a wrestling show and sounding terrible, and then having shitty finishers and not really that well. They're just not very good in the ring. The best part of Hit Row was Swerve Strickland. He's not there anymore. So I don't understand it with Hit Row. But anyway, that match ended with Karrion Kross interfering, putting McIntyre into a chokehold, and he put him into the chokehold so hard that it turned the screen black and white. And I just felt like the way that you end that match is you have Solo Sikoa put up a fight, a good one. You have McIntyre go over, and then once it's over, you can have Karrion Kross come in and choke him out. Now, he's choking him out. The screen's black and white, which I thought was hokey as hell. And Scarlett is standing over top of him, looking like she's getting wet over the fact that McIntyre's being choked out by Karrion Kross, who, by all accounts, is not that well of a wrestler at all. I mean, character-wise and all his promos, great, but I've never seen him even take a flat back bump. But what did you guys think of the end of SmackDown there, the way they decided to finish that?
I hated it. I hated the fact that there was so much ridiculous interference once again against Drew. And it kind of pisses me off. I understand this is wrestling and it's not, exactly reality, but if I'm Drew McIntyre, I'm saying, how the hell are these guys getting away with it? The ref is in the corner like a moron, distracted by Sami Zayn, who's doing absolutely nothing. You have 5 guys basically attacking Drew in the middle of the match. This just happened to him a week before a Clash at the Castle. How much do you put up with where you say, fuck this, you're getting me a rematch against Roman Reigns? You know what I mean? I just don't understand how Drew just takes it and doesn't say anything about it. Logically, if we're going to make this more realistic under Triple H and all this stuff, that's what I didn't like about it.
Yeah, and clearly they're moving on from Roman's not going to be in Extreme Rules. I think the next pay-per-view or even appearance whatsoever he's going to make is Survivor Series. Maybe is SmackDown. Prior to that, just for the build to it, who the hell knows what kind of match they're going to have? Because if it's champion versus champion, like it used to be, he'd be fighting himself. But
well, aren't we going to have an appearance at the Saudi show?
yeah, I guess the Saudi show. Yeah, I forget about that stupid ass.
Oh
show.
yeah, Prince Ali Fahid, acknowledge me. We'll see if he pulls that shit off. We'll see if there isn't a little bit of creative change.
And then who the fuck's he gonna face? Braun Strowman now? Jesus Christ,
monster among men.
Yeah. So, but what did you think of that ending there with Karen? Because a lot of people were like, "Oh, great touch by WWE with the black and the white." I thought it was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? This guy chokes him so hard." Made me want to
kill myself. When the screen turned and I saw fucking what is it? Oh, I'm sorry. We cursed. I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah, you're good.
I saw Karrion Kross's big ass white teeth. I was like, "Oh Jesus!" And then, but I'll tell you, I hated it too. I'm with Brad on that. I hated it. It was too hokey. It didn't look tough. When you do like a run-in kind of thing like that, I mean, this is like, armchair, booking or whatever. But you got to look tough. He didn't look tough. He looked like some fucking tool with his girlfriend, who at least, like, they used to, like Scarlett, they made at least look a lot better. She used to look like his mom, coming to the ring with him. And now, at least she looks more close to his age. But the black and white, the stuff they do where they do the choke so long. That poor Drew's got to sell this shit. 45 seconds or a minute or whatever. It's too long to be, having to froth at the mouth and stuff. So I can see why this would be like a good way to introduce some kind of dominant person. But like you said, from what I've seen, I don't think he's especially capable in the ring at all. And I mean, they just released him not long ago, didn't they? And they just brought him back. I mean, I don't think they released him because he's so great. I don't know, but
I did like the fade to black touch. I personally did like that. I did not like the black and white. I liked the fade to black where Michael Cole was still talking. I thought that was kind of cool.
Brad liked it if it said, and then it said Finn at the end, Fiend, right? And then
right,
that shit's fine. The fade to black, whatever.
It is fine.
But the chokehold, choking him so hard that it choked the fucking production truck into turning the fucking screen black and white. I think that's a little bit fucking ridiculous. Like, always black and white whenever Karrion Kross does something. Like, I can buy the idea of somebody's music being turned on when they enter. But I can't buy the idea of anytime somebody's doing anything that it magically filters the fucking screen black and white. Now, the other thing that I'm going to ask you guys after this break is about Bray Wyatt, because we've had a couple instances. We had the fade to black, and then on Raw we had, in the middle of Omos's match, or right when it started, I think, we had sudden technical difficulties and the screen went black, which was kind of strange to have that occur. But we're going to hit a break real quick and we'll be right back.
The Beyond the Mat Podcast. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Beyond the Mat Podcast.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Mat. Before the break, we were talking about possibility of Bray Wyatt returning. That's been heavily rumored, as well as a lot of other things. We've had returns left and right, sometimes seemingly for no reason. And like I said, we had the fade to black on SmackDown, and then we had the mysterious technical difficulties during Omos's match. Do you think that any of these things are linked, Brad? And do you think that has anything to do with Bray Wyatt coming back as a character that's going to do this supernatural bullshit? Or do you think that it's just a happy coincidence, has nothing to do with Bray Wyatt?
Yeah, I don't, the technical difficulties, I think they would have done it in a different way, because they did play the audio. You hear that sometimes at baseball games or even NFL games where there's a technical difficulty in the stadium, and you almost hear a feed of the announcers or what's coming through your television, almost like it's a an AM radio broadcast, and you did have that for a few seconds. I think that had nothing to do with Bray Wyatt. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't even think of that, man. But like, I legitimately thought there was some sort of just quick outage in their truck, and because that's normally the way it comes through when those things happen from a broadcast perspective. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I honestly I was hoping it would last longer, so that way the technical difficulties would black out Omos's entire match and we wouldn't have to watch it.
Huh.
You think it's possible to almost just had botched up so many moves in a row or something that they're just like, God, cut it. Kevin Dunn, cut this shit quick. You know?
I know they made sure we saw him botch a bunch of moves against some jobbers. He threw a guy so fucking far into the turnbuckle, the guy had to stop himself from basically breaking his neck on the ring post. But anyway, Brad, were you about to say something there?
No, I didn't hate the Omos match. I didn't really notice that. I just thought, I sometimes think those squash matches are fun, as you know, Matt. So I didn't mind it.
Yeah, I don't mind squash matches. It is what it is. I think that you need to have sometimes guys like that, especially for house shows. You put a monster out there at house shows, it just freaking destroys everybody. And the casual fans or whatever like to see that. And, some guys like, you like the big destructive type of shit. And, that's more your cup of tea, and that's cool. And I don't have an issue with it. To me, Omos can't wrestle. And so he's liable to get somebody hurt. He almost killed Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania. And so that's the thing I have with Omos. And, he can't wrestle. And you got a guy like MVP, who's a very good manager, managing him, who could be managing somebody who is much more formidable than Omos. And what are you really going to do with him, especially now that you've brought back somebody like Braun Strowman, who's also portrayed as a monster and is far more skilled than him. And I don't even really like Braun Strowman that much. And so, the way they brought him back was have a fatal 4-way tag team match for the #1 contendership for the tag team championships. Okay. And 4 teams that don't deserve whatsoever to even be in that position. You got the New Day, Los Lotharios, Street Profits, and Alpha Academy. Now, Alpha Academy, yeah, I think that they're one team that deserves to have a shot, but they haven't been positioned in that manner. We had Chad Gable wrestle Johnny Gargano in Johnny Gargano's first match on the main roster the other night, which we'll get into in a minute. But then you have Braun Strowman come out and completely destroy everybody, including Montez Ford, who is an upcoming single star that they're looking to move, into the singles competition at some point soon. And so I just thought that was a bad way to bring Braun Strowman back. There's a lot of other ways that you could have had him attack everybody after the match was over. And now we're having a rematch of that match on SmackDown this week, what's going to happen then? Are the Viking Raiders going to come in and destroy everybody because they're actually the one team that probably should have the #1 contendership for the tag team title match, not the New Day, who they just destroyed in that boat match they had the other week, or the Street Profits, who have already proven not able to beat the Usos, or Los Lotharios, who have been persona non grata, or Alpha Academy, who really hasn't done much in the tag division itself in a while. I mean, what is going to happen with that fatal 4-way tag match, you guys?
RK Bro's going to come back, man. And I'm going to tell you why I'm halfway serious with that, because first and foremost, that show's now missing Roman. Riddle doesn't have anything to do. And I was thinking at the end of that Riddle Seth Rollins match, segment on Raw, how much Riddle needs someone to protect him. He was just getting destroyed by the Judgment Day, by Rollins, with absolutely no one coming in to help him. And let me tell you something, we're not going to have every single person in WWE return at the Royal Rumble. If you have Randy return at the Royal Rumble, awesome, but it's going to immediately be overshadowed by Cody Rhodes. If you're going to have, and there's other returns that are going to happen too, I assume, at the Royal Rumble. whether that is a Rick Boogs, whether that I don't know, but you can't have everyone return at the Royal Rumble. We have to have something juicy going into Saudi and going into Survivor Series and going into the end of the year. I really think you might have RK Bro come in as a fifth participant on SmackDown. I really do. I'm not joking about that.
Yeah, but Randy Orton has back surgery and cannot compete for the rest of this year. And that's why
Do we know that that's true?
All but yes, confirmed. RK Bro's not coming back. Randy Orton's not coming back anytime soon. He's about as out right now, certainly, as Big E. And Big E may never wrestle again. Now, Randy Orton will, but he's not coming back anytime soon. I'm not telling you you're an idiot for saying that. I'm saying that every single thing that I've seen, read, heard, whatever, tells me that Randy Orton will not be back until at least December at the very earliest. So I don't think that's what's going to happen. To me, if someone's going to mess up this match, it's going to be the Viking Raiders, who are way more entitled to being the number one contenders for the Usos championships than anybody else. But eventually, I think that the babyface Kevin Owens, and whenever Sami Zayn gets out of the bloodline and turns babyface and joins Kevin Owens, should be the ones to face the Usos and dethrone them. But, if your RK Bro prediction comes true, I have no complaints about it. I'm wearing an RK Bro shirt right now. But what do you think, Russ, about the Fatal 4-Way tag match happening on SmackDown after Braun Strowman blew it the hell up on Raw?
I don't know. Who's in it again? Like, all these names. I'm like, I thought the Street Profits were on SmackDown, but they're on Raw and SmackDown. Are all the teams just on every show?
Everybody's floating all over the place. They're not honoring the
okay.
Yeah, they're not honoring any kind of brand split right now.
Some kind of fuck finish, and the Usos will keep the titles. I think it's going to be business as usual until Royal Rumble at the earliest. At the very earliest, you might see some kind of arbitrary title change, and then maybe another switch back. I doubt it'll be Usos, but unless they're trying to sow some dissension.
Well,
I think everybody keeps their title more or less until
the match is for number one contender to face the Usos, though.
Right.
And basically every team but the Viking Raiders is in it. So I would think the Viking Raiders would take exception to that and would run in and beat everybody up with their fucking shields or plates or whatever they are that they carry around.
Plates. Forks. I like the new Viking Raiders a bit, I saw them at the house show and they really got over with me. They really did.
Well, they're certainly better than what they were.
House show tag team,
Yeah, they're better than what they were before was a goddamn joke. At least they're actually, something now that you can sort of get behind and, see as something that can beat somebody. I didn't see them beating anybody when they were baby faces before. So, but,
is that Nicholas kid still available for Braun to tag up with? Remember that? When he was tag team champion, that little boy.
Yeah, I mean,
bring him out.
I don't know what the hell they're doing with that. But transitioning on to the ladies here, there we
go.
We had on Raw open challenge Bianca Belair. Open challenge, and then had Sonya Deville come out. Now for a second I'm like, I'm thinking maybe we'll get a surprise here, and then I see Sonya Deville. I'm like, what the hell, why? And then Sonya Deville gets on the mic and starts talking about how Bianca Belair caused her to get fired, and I'm thinking, when the hell did that happen? And then I remembered that it was because Sonya said that Bianca would face a mystery opponent, and the mystery opponent in fact was Sonya, and this was when Sonya was in her authority role. And then Adam Pearce had her removed from that authority role for abusing her power. So they had themselves a match. They had sloppiness all over the place. And then moving on from that, on SmackDown last week, we had the 5-way match for the number one contendership for Liv Morgan's title. And Sonya Deville was involved in that. she was involved in the final 2. Now, Lacey Evans was in this match out of nowhere. We haven't seen her in like 6 or 8 weeks. We haven't seen her since Vince left. She comes out to this left, 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 right, left, this American fucking music. And it looks like she's going to high five someone, then slaps her ass. I don't know what the hell kind of look she was going for with this red dot on her face. And then she gets in the match, hits somebody with the women's right. Ronda taps out Natalya. Then Ronda taps out her as Sonya is tapping out Xia Li, who, again, what business does she have being in a number 1 contenders match? I don't even know if she's ever won a match on SmackDown, period. And we have Liv all the way up in the seats, looking really heelish up there, just looking very cocky and all this shit. Eventually, Ronda Rousey beats the hell out of Sonya Deville and gains the number 1 contendership and the shot at Extreme Rules for the SmackDown Women's title. What do you think about Rousey and Liv Morgan, and also the backstage segment where we saw Rousey and Baszler run into each other and say, when you're ready to break some bones around here, let me know. And I'll add to that at house shows, Baszler and Rousey have been tagging together for quite a while. They were tagging against Raquel and Aaliyah, who just dropped the women's tag team titles on Raw to the Damage Control tag team. So what do you think about Liv Morgan's title run as a SmackDown Women's Champion? What do you think about her facing Ronda Rousey at Extreme Rules, and how do you see that going?
Liv Morgan as champion has been the worst thing I've ever seen in my life, maybe. I don't know. It's been so terrible. Maybe I'm too hyperbolic about it, but it's so uneventful. I think the best thing that's come out of it so far is like Ronda Rousey kind of not being so dreadful again. Like she seems kind of re-energized this whole thing. I don't know if you guys have detected it at all.
Yeah, Rousey's gotten better, a lot better.
Yeah, more what the word is, not attractive, but like more, like less visually, I don't know. Like, yeah, she just seems more energetic, more
dynamic,
I guess, right? Yeah, more dynamic would be a great way to say it. Yeah.
She's been better on the mic, and she's been more, she's just come off better, and she seemed more comfortable, and, hasn't been so fucking boring.
Right. And Liv has taken that mantle from her. Like, I'll now be the most boring. If you thought Liv Morgan was boring before, holy Toledo.
My issue with her is that she's really not that great in the ring. She comes out here and she cries when she wins, which is fine if you want to have this emotional character or whatever, but it's just, she's not quite on the level as a Bianca Belair, as a Sasha Banks, who isn't there, but as a Becky Lynch, as a Charlotte Flair, as a Bayley, as Alexa Bliss. She's just not.
As you say these names, can I say, as you say these names, before you got to like Sasha, but these are all like, you say those names, I'm kind of running through my mind. Those are all like really athletic women, right? That as you just went through those names, they all seem like they could be Division I athletes if they weren't pro wrestlers or prior to their career in pro wrestling. Maybe they were, but
Becky Lynch was a stunt woman.
Yeah, and Liv Morgan seems like one of these things is not like the others. Right?
Well, in defense of her, she was in NXT for not very long. They brought her up very early in the Vince administration because of her look, and she, wasn't really featured as a prominent wrestler. She really had to work very hard on the main roster to get somewhere. She was very green, still honestly botches half the stuff she's going for in a match. I do think that Baszler worked a good match with her at Clash of the Castle, and sort of, even though Baszler kind of dominated that match and Liv Morgan didn't look completely great in that match, Baszler was able to sell Liv Morgan's offense well, and make her look better. But at the same time, Liv Morgan just isn't, she's still developing. And so having
she
her.
She looks like she's developing as a woman. She looks like she's 13 years old.
Yeah. So,
like, you know what I mean?
Having her do this cash in and win, which is a heel move to cash in on a wounded fucking wrestler, and then having her tap out at the 2 count when she could have tapped out at the 3 count, then having her come out and cut a promo and saying I tapped out at the 3 count, and then that gets the crowd turned on her. I think that at this match at Extreme Rules, she's going to end up losing to Rousey, but we're going to get a double turn. We're going to get Liv Morgan turn heel, and we're going to get Rousey turned as more of a cemented babyface at that time. But then again, where are we going with Rousey and Baszler? Are we going to see Rousey drop that title to a returning Charlotte Flair or a returning somebody at some point, and then see Baszler and Rousey tag? Do you guys see Baszler and Rousey tagging at any point to, get some more legitimacy in the women's tag team division? Or do you see Rousey just squashing Liv Morgan like, quite frankly, she should? Or maybe in this match, Liv Morgan puts up a little bit more of a fight, but Rousey ends up winning. Where do you see that match going, and where do you see Baszler and Rousey going?
Matt, I think it's a long-term play, but because this Damage Control just won the tag team titles, I don't see it happening right now. I really don't see it happening right now, especially now that we know we have another month to go almost before Rousey has a big singles match for the championship. So I just don't see it now, but I could see it, a month and a half from now, or 2 months or 3 months from now,
Yeah. I mean, the Extreme Rules is on October 8th. That's about 2.5 weeks away. And then, I do see Baszler and Rousey, if it happens, as a long-term thing that would probably come together after whenever Damage Control loses the titles to a face team such as a returning Baszler, a returning Naomi and Sasha possibly. But what do you think about just overall, Russ, the match that Rousey and Morgan are going to have, and then the possibility of Baszler and Rousey tagging in the future?
I think the match they're going to have will probably be, it's going to be babyface, right? So that's, I think it'll be probably pretty bad unless Rousey just really sells her offense. But I would like to see her just dominate. I would like to see Rousey. I like dominant champion, so especially babyface champion. If she could dominate that and then let Liv turn or just fade away, probably. I don't know how Liv's going to recover from this. As far as tag teams, they could tag in the future, but I think the women's they need more stars too. They need more. It kind of wastes Ronda Rousey to put her in a tag team, in my opinion. So who knows how much longer she's going to do this? So you need to, in my opinion, put the title on her and push her up and have her fight Charlotte at WrestleMania. In a huge match. Anything less would be a misuse.
I think the play is for her to be facing Becky Lynch at WrestleMania eventually, and her to be the SmackDown Women's Champion at that time, and Becky Lynch win the title from her as a babyface whenever the hell she returns. But regardless, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back in about a second.
The Beyond the Mat Podcast. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Beyond the Mat Podcast.
All right, so Russ and I agree that Liv Morgan's been a weak champion and that she's most likely going to drop the title to Ronda Rousey, and it's a babyface matchup. That's why I think that we're going to see Liv Morgan turn heel. I think that's the best way for them to go, especially since the crowd has turned on her a little bit. Now, before we move on to the show, I want to remind everybody to follow us on Twitter at BeyondMattWWE. If you want to join us on the show, just hit me up with the DM and we'll set it up. You can also send us questions to answer on the air. And you can also email me, matt@beyondthemat.com. Moving on from there, we had a really nice promo by Kevin Owens on Raw, which I'm going to play for you guys real quick, and we'll talk about it.
How many guys in the last 2 decades have come by in WWE that were just like you? Young, chiseled out of stone, full of potential. And how many of those guys fizzled out and went nowhere? Hundreds of them. Hundreds. But let me ask you this. How many people like me and Johnny Gargano have come around WWE? And how many of those guys made it to the level we're at? You can count those on one hand, because people like you are a dime a dozen, while people like me and Johnny Gargano are 1 in a million. Now shut up and listen to me, because I want you to prove me wrong. Come on, prove me wrong. Prove all these people wrong. You know how to do it? You know how to do it? I'll tell you. You stop thinking about the moments that were handed to you, and you start making your own moments. You know how to do that? You check your ego at the door. You look at yourself in the mirror. You realize you're not as good as you think you are, but you let your passion drive you to get better. And more importantly, you leave everything you have in this ring every time you step foot in front of these people. That's how you prove me wrong. That's how you become the future. That's how you become the face of WWE.
So Theory just flexes after that. They brawl a little bit and then they get pulled apart. That sets up a match for Owens and Theory next week on Raw, which quite frankly, we saw a week or two ago anyway. Owens won, finished with the pop-up powerbomb. Now, prior to this, we had Gargano in his first match against Chad Gable. I actually thought it was a really smart move by WWE to debut Gargano against Chad Gable, another guy who he had previous experience with in NXT, and another guy who's very good at mat wrestling. You know, the two of them, they stay off the ropes, they stay off the turnbuckles, and they did a lot of chain wrestling, mat wrestling moves. Very good technical wrestling in that match. Might not have been the style that you like, Brad. I don't know. But I thought that it was just really well done. And, you know, they're very careful with the way that they're using Gargano. And, you know, poor Chad Gable's got to put everybody over in the ring. But, you know, that's the way it is. Then he gets attacked by Theory with the briefcase. And then a now babyface Kevin Owens comes into the ring and cuts that promo on him, basically telling him that things are not the way they used to be. You know, you may have had everything handed to you, but you got to earn it now. I thought it was great. I thought that was almost like a mission statement from, you know, management to everybody, not just the WWE wrestlers, but also to the fans, that they're not just going to hand shit to people because they're Vince McMahon's pet cat. And, you know, Kevin Owens is really kicking ass. What do you guys think of that promo? And, you know, where do you think we're going with Kevin Owens moving forward? Now, I will say this before I ask that question, Brad, when you mentioned Riddle. Riddle is going to be facing Rollins at Extreme Rules in some kind of Falls Count Anywhere match or something like that. And the Judgment Day shit was to set up Riddle's next feud, most likely with Balor, after he's done with Rollins. That's why I don't think we're seeing a return of RK Bro. We're going to see a continuation of build of Riddle. So that's my explanation on that one, besides the fact that I don't see Orton coming back. But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And if you're right, that's very cool. So where do you see Kevin Owens going after he faces Theory next week? You think we're seeing him move into the title picture, or do you think we see him eventually get Sami Zayn out of the bloodline and have them go against the Usos? And what do you think of the promo overall, Brad?
Yeah, I thought this segment was amazing, top to bottom, every part of it. Even how and for all the talk that were about Kevin Owens, I thought Theory was amazing too. I mean, I thought Theory was great, especially what you didn't see during that clip, unless you watched it, was Theory almost like about to cry, but like enraged, but a little scared. Like, it was really good acting all the way around, especially by Kevin Owens, of course. But what Theory was doing almost made me feel like they were going to set up not just a feud between these two, but a feud that will potentially, and this I'm saying potentially, result in a briefcase change. Because the way that Kevin Owens got to Theory like so deeply in that promo and really upset him to the core, and then obviously bloodied his nose afterwards, which was also crazy, made me think that Theory will say something like, yeah, you want a shot at me? I'll put up my damn briefcase or something like that. Like, I'll prove to you everything. I'll give you the chance to take everything. And if you can't, you're left with nothing, and I'll have all of it. I don't know, something like that. But Matt, do you see something like that coming? Because I think the briefcase is going to become a factor in this feud.
I think it's possible because the briefcase was basically handed to Theory by having him inserted into that match. He basically didn't do shit until the end when he climbed up the ladder and won. And as soon as he got inserted in that match after not earning it, I knew he was going to be the one who would win. And previously we have heard Kevin Owens mention the fact that, he should have been in that match. And if he was, Theory wouldn't have won. So it's absolutely possible that we see the briefcase go on the line and Kevin Owens get it. And then he set up a match with Roman Reigns. A lot of people think that, he's somebody who's up next for Roman Reigns, and sure, that could be possible. I still don't see him as somebody who's going to defeat him. Maybe he'll be the Saudi opponent. I don't know. But at the end of the day, for me, where I want to see Kevin Owens go is into a tag team with a newly babyface turned Sami Zayn, and then they take on the Usos and become the undisputed tag champions. Maybe that's just fantasy booking or a pipe dream for me, but what do you think about all that, Russ?
I think that'd be cool. I don't know. The promo was good. I don't like, all the like me and Johnny Gargano, kind of like your big brother putting you over. But I guess it's what you needed, right? So what else are you gonna do? But
well, it's because
it was a great promo.
It was the Gargano's because Theory's been messing with Gargano on Raw, and because he just attacked him, so he had to include him in that, I think. But
like guys like me, the best in the world, and Johnny Gargano. Like, Johnny, who? The guy from NXT, and he's like, I don't know. I thought he looks like the guy that brings my paper, but that's okay.
Yeah, I definitely think he looks like a guy who works at a sunglass store in the mall or something like that. And that's why they need to protect him the way they do, and
it is,
and put him in there with guys like Gable who can wrestle the way that he does, and not put him in there with a guy like Bobby Lashley who's just going to destroy him, which I'm going to transition to in a moment. But quickly, Brad, what did you think of the debut match for Johnny Gargano with Chad Gable?
I thought it was good, man. I really did. And, I was talking bad about Gargano when he came out, but, I thought he looked, like he was in great shape, and just the way the match was, it was interesting. It was well done. I liked how Gargano was like selling a limp, like almost like good in-ring storytelling. And I liked it. I really did like it. I thought it was a terrific match. How about you, Matt?
I thought it was really good. I think Gable's outstanding in the ring doing that type of technical work, and having him with Gargano, who's also a technician in there. It was a different kind of match than you see than the normal WWE style with guys bouncing off the ropes and doing all this shit. But I thought it was absolutely a, a great showcase of technical wrestling, and I want to see more of that. Now they got to be careful with Gargano, with who they match him up with. Obviously, it's going to be Theory again soon after Theory gets done with Kevin Owens, and I think that'll work out too. And whoever goes over in that, it doesn't really matter to me, but I think that I thought it was an excellent match. All the reversals and the chain wrestling and the takedowns and the arm drags and the leg hold, all that shit was great. So,
and one other thing about Gargano, not to interrupt, but his theme song is just fantastic. And it shows you how important the theme song is, because I mean, my kids are into him just because they like the theme song, and then they pay attention to the wrestler and the ring work because of the theme song. But the theme song is just a big part of who you are. And, that's one of the things I'd like to see Triple H do, is get rid of that Def Rebel and go back to either hiring Jim Johnston again or, a CFO or another group. But that's for another show.
Yeah, and I do that. The theme song's great. People mark out over that. But to transition from that, we had Rollins out for his promo. Got interrupted by Riddle. Matt Riddle basically said bro, and then jumped into the ring. They started brawling, went into the crowd. Riddle got the better of him before Judgment Day came out. Balor is like, hey, you're either with us or you're in our way, which was kind of awkward, but whatever. But I think that next week, given the fact that backstage we saw Rollins talking about how he's the face of WWE Raw, and then Lashley stepped up and said, I'm the champion here, and he's not the champion, he's a champion, but I guess he's the champion that's featured on Raw on television. So we're going to have Rollins and Lashley in the main event on Raw next week. And I think that that's going to be a match where Riddle's going to maybe not directly interfere, but cause some sort of distraction that's going to cause Rollins to get speared and lose that match. And then Rollins will say, you know what? Now I do want to rematch you at Extreme Rules, and it's going to be a Falls Count Anywhere match or cage, whatever kind of match they want to do at Extreme Rules, because it's Extreme Rules. And then we'll get that Rollins and Riddle rematch where we will see probably a very good match, and we'll see Riddle get his win back. The thing that I liked about their match at Clash of the Castle, although it did seem like they were just hitting move after move after move after move, and it seemed kind of random, the moves that they were going for, they also saved a lot of their signature shit for the next match, which is always the mark. If you can pull a good match off and not dig all the way deep into your whole move set and leave a lot for the next one, then that makes that match great, but it makes the rematch even better. That was something that I thought about the Money in the Bank match between the Profits and the Usos. And then at SummerSlam, it just didn't seem like they aspired to top that Money in the Bank match. And that match just wasn't as good as the Money in the Bank match, but I digress there. I do think that we'll see Rollins end up losing here to Lashley, and we'll have Riddle and Rollins at Extreme Rules. And that's another reason why I don't think that we'll have RK Bro back just yet. But regardless, but anyway, a couple more minor things about SmackDown. We have Shit Row getting featured quite a bit, and they seem to always.
Row. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Hey, you sounded better than they do. You know what I mean? I mean,
Shit
geez.
Row. Oh, I know. It's unbelievable.
We're back. We're back. You know, this guy's like, hey, I put the G in OG3, and I also am OG3, and he says I also like 15 times. Like, what the hell? Who wrote the fucking lyrics for that shit? That was the most bullshit fucking nonsense that they could put on television. And I understand there's people that like Hit Row and that liked them in NXT, but they liked them when they had a good worker like Swerve Strickland in there. They don't even look good in the ring. And why do they have to be burying the Maximum Male Models all the time?
Yeah.
You know, I seen Mansoor.
Burying Maximum Male, burying Mansoor. Don't be burying my Mansoor.
I mean, listen.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Say what you want about Mansoor and Massey and whatever, but LA Knight's a hell of a fucking promo, and he's also a hell of a fucking wrestler, and it looks like they're going to be getting him back in the ring soon, but Mansoor is no chump in the ring. I seen him work a 25-minute match with Gunther at a house show before, and Gunther's a hell of an Intercontinental Champion right now. Glad to see Imperium back. So just overall, what do you guys think of those three factions, especially since they're on SmackDown? Russ, what do you think of Imperium and Hit Row and Maximum Male Models?
What Maximum Male Models? So I watch SmackDown with my 9-year-old son, right? And he's not hip to the business or anything like that. We just watch it purely, and take it in. And Maximum Male Model has, since its inception, been like, what on earth is going on here? And then Shit Row itself is like, he tries to, God bless him, my son, he tries to be supportive of these people. It's like their music isn't very, oh my gosh. And he really just sums it up there. And then who's the other one? Maximum
Imperium.
Imperium. So getting a third member was cool, but just in general, like they're great. I mean, before adding whatever his name is, Leonardo da Vinci, having just Gunther and Kaiser was great. They really, I don't know, they really look dominant, even though like Kaiser gets like waylaid on. Having the big heavy outside always to, come in and straighten shit out it's just it's a simple story and it works so well. This other stuff like Hit Row or something like that is so like, what is that story even telling? Like, so I think with that kind of thing, it's just destined to go nowhere from the beginning. And Maximum Male Models it's funny, it's got its charm. So.
Yeah, I think the Male Models is funny. I think the Hit Row shit is ridiculously stupid. And, I think Vince McMahon fired him for a reason and a good reason. And there was no good reason to bring him back. Imperium's great. And at the same time, their adversary right now, Sheamus, now babyface, and his group, Pete Dunne, now actually, as Butch, but really wrestling as Pete Dunne, in every sense of the gear and the style and everything like that's great. I do think like the fact that he makes it look like he's breaking somebody's finger, but really isn't, because it's not like the guy's walking around with a broken finger for the rest of the match, is a little bit hokey. But at the same time, Pete Dunne, they're giving him an opportunity to show off his skills. So Sheamus's group Fight Night as well. I like too, on top of that. And I liked their match with Imperium. What did you actually think of the match that Imperium and Fight Night had, Russ?
Imperium and Fight Night on SmackDown?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Like, I thought, I was so sick to death of Sheamus, right? Until like the Clash of the Castle. Like, it really, I'm just as swayed by the compelling stuff as anybody else. So I, really put him over with me again, or maybe for the first time. And I thought it was great. Like, I like to see when the crowd is into stuff in like a more natural way, when they're genuinely excited, not just, reciting some performative chant or ritual or something. And it was cool. Like, I like the face-offs they've had. I just like the way they've built it. And, visually they're, stark contrasts. So I think I enjoy it. I enjoy it. So that's a big mark for me. Big markup for me.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take one more break, and then we're going to do some trivia and get the hell out of here.
The Beyond the Mat Podcast. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Beyond the Mat Podcast.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Mat. Before we close out, we will just recap that for the women's tag title match on Raw, we had Aaliyah coming out with Raquel. Raquel looking like somebody who belongs in a Aquafresh or Colgate ad with her beautiful smile. And, Aaliyah's doing this stuff. I don't know if she's the two of them or a couple or something like that. Now, we know that Raquel Rodriguez is actually dating Braun Strowman, but, Aaliyah might want a piece of that because she likes to slap Raquel's ass and try to give her a kiss. It looked like Raquel didn't really want to have anything to do with that. But regardless, they fought a match. I will tell you that Dakota Kai and Io Sky do not look as clean in the ring as they did in NXT at all. I don't know if it's nerves, if it's ring rust, if it's what, but they just don't look that great in the ring. As smooth, these tag matches between these women, really all of them have been sloppy as hell. Even the one on SmackDown with Raquel and Aaliyah against Toxic Attraction, that one was a botch fest. The one thing that was a little bit nice looking was the one Bronco Buster that the one Toxic Attraction girl hit. But regardless, in this match, we had a situation where we had Aaliyah hit an X Factor on Dakota Kai. She was right by the ropes, went for the pin. She had the visual 3 count, but Bayley put Dakota Kai's foot on the ropes. The ref saw it, and then this pissed off Raquel. It caused Raquel to get distracted by Bayley. She did take Bayley out. Prior to this, the reason why Raquel was ringside was that Io Sky went for a Hurricane Rana on Raquel Rodriguez. Rodriguez blocked it. She had her in a glam slam position, then picked her up in powerbomb position, and then ended up stumbling over to the ropes where they both spilled over to the ringside area in front of the announce table. And then that's when Raquel saw the fuckery by Bayley, who, in my opinion, has been annoying as hell in her heel character here. As much as I love Bayley as a performer and always have, this iteration of her just hasn't stuck with me, and this Damage Control faction has not stuck with me. But nevertheless, the tag matches have been sloppy. This one was Dakota Kai, after this distraction of Raquel Rodriguez, ended up hitting her finisher, the chiropractor, which is a modified backstabber where she sort of does a sunset flip over the opponent off a rebound on the ropes, and then hits the backstabber on Aaliyah. Aaliyah sold it like in a ridiculous way. You would think she would just sort of collapse because of the back pressure, but she flopped up in the air like a zombie and then fell over and took the 3 count. And we had new tag champions with Dakota Kai and Io Sky winning the tag championships. And as they backed up to the entranceway, there was pyro going off like fucking crazy. What did you think of this whole match and the title change, Brad?
Can I tell you how much I hate Bayley and this group? There's no words. They are the most annoying. I don't hate them in the way like, oh, like they're such a heel, they're such a bad guy. I hate them. I hate watching them. I hate everything about the group. Bayley, again, seems like a 48-year-old Midwestern mean mom or mean teacher, the meanest teacher in your school. She looks terrible.
She seems like your divorced aunt that is a total bitch. And, you know, she shows up at fucking Thanksgiving, gets trashed on red wine, and is annoying as fuck. And like I said, as much as I like Bailey, and as much as EO and Dakota were over in NXT, I just don't see them that way on the main roster. And I was excited for this group when it started, but they have not resonated with me so far. And I know that there's other fans that feel the same way. Now, I also know that there's other fans that are afraid to say anything negative about them because they are who they are, but whatever. But go ahead.
Who
Brad.
are they? But who are they? Like everyone, like EO Sky, fine. She's fine in the ring. I think she's good in the ring. Actually, I think she's the way better than Dakota. But the problem is, man, she can't say a word. It's very hard for me to get invested in a character who really can't talk. And then, you know, or at least speak English in a way that I can understand it. And then Dakota Kai seems like a little girl to me who's acting like she's a mean person. And again, Bailey's, you're right, seems like a divorced, drunken Midwestern aunt or something who's annoying as shit. And I don't think anyone likes this group. And now the thing that bothers me is I think they're going to make them like a female bloodline type of thing. Where is Bailey now going to win the championship from Bianca, and they're going to have all the gold, and they're going to recruit new members? And I don't like this, man. I do not like this. And we're going to take over the whole women's division that she said this week on Raw. Fuck that, man. I don't want to see that.
I was about to say the same words, but let me ask you two questions.
Do you guys think whenever I see Bailey come to the ring, I always think it's like, I'm like, is that China? I thought she died. You know?
She looks terrible. She looks terrible.
China actually looked nice towards the end of her career.
She did, and she could work better than Bailey too. But,
yeah, but anyway, but so my two questions are, first of all, do you think that the next opponent for Sky and Kai are going to be Alexa Bliss and Asuka? Brad.
I guess so, but I do think it leads into them beating them and then a Sasha Banks program. I hope so, at least, because I cannot have this group be a female bloodline, man. I cannot have that happen.
I don't think Belair's dropping the title to Bailey. I think Bailey's going to do the job to put Bailey already pinned her at Clash of the Castles, and so that puts it in your head that she's going to defeat her. I think Bianca Belair overcomes those odds at Extreme Rules, and she, further cements her title reign, which honestly, up until really now, it's been pretty lackluster. Her best match was the Becky Lynch SummerSlam match, which she destroyed Becky Lynch's shoulder in the process, right as they were trying to turn Becky Lynch face. And I wonder what would be going on if that never happened, if Becky Lynch was still present. Maybe she would be tag team champions with, I don't know what the hell they'd be doing. But regardless, my second question on top of that is, why the hell did they have Raquel and Aaliyah even win in the first place? Was it just because they didn't want going into the Clash at the Castle having the tag straps on the Damage Control team?
It makes no sense because, right, it makes the belts look, they're interchanging so freely, so quickly. No one can hang on to them. They really don't matter. You know what I mean? All like the things I feel like that they were trying to get away from with the Women's Tag Team Championships. So honestly, man, I don't understand it unless the only thing that I could think of is that maybe Toxic Attraction was supposed to win.
See, I don't think that, but I do think that they put it on Raquel and Aaliyah because Toxic Attraction had the injury. Then they bring Toxic Attraction in to have the match with them so that they can defeat them and basically say, well, even though they couldn't make the whole fucking tournament, we were able to beat them anyway. And so it made them look like formidable champions, made it look like the tournament was complete. Then you defeat them. So then it actually elevates the Damage Control team by beating them instead of beating a team that got to skate through part of the tournament by not having to face Toxic Attraction. So does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, it does. But I just wonder if I think Toxic was going to win that match against Raquel and Aaliyah. That's personally what I think, but you will never know. No one will ever know except Triple H.
Yeah. So who the hell cares? Anyway, you guys ready for trivia?
Let's go.
All right. So, Roman Reigns has not been pinned in a singles match that was televised since December of 2019. What was the event and who pinned him? December of 2019, Roman Reigns was pinned by who at what event?
Hell in a Cell is the event. And
not Hell in a Cell, but you're kind of close.
Extreme Rules.
Still pretty close, but keep going.
Fuck. TLC.
Okay.
I don't know.
It was TLC.
No.
It was TLC in December.
Finally. Brad, you got anything on this? 2019.
I have no idea, man.
I'm going Brock Lesnar.
All right, Russ, you got too many wrong answers. Let Brad give it a chance.
TLC. Wait, Matt. TLC was not televised?
No, it was televised. The last televised singles pin loss. Come on, man. Stop playing PlayStation and pay attention, and then maybe you'll know.
Braun Strowman.
All right. Yeah, I was gonna say
You're back in, Russ.
that'll be finally. Okay. Damn, I can't believe it wasn't.
Somebody that you wouldn't expect. I'll give you a hint. December is sort of the end of the days of the year.
Oh, Edge. No, Happy Corbin, my boy.
Baron Corbin.
Jeez Louise.
Pinned Roman
Happy
Reigns
Corbin.
December of 2019 at TLC. Last time that Roman Reigns was pinned in a televised match, singles match that is, and he has not been pinned since. What do you think of that?
Amazing.
I think it's terrific. And now Corbin's getting a rebrand, it seems, right?
Yeah, they got him. It looks like working with JBL, and maybe
That'll
they're
be perfect.
bringing him back as some sort of $1 million man type of heel. So
Those two would work absolutely great together, I think. JBL would be a great guy for this era in wrestling, I think. So
yeah, as long as they keep him off of commentary, we don't need to hear that anymore. But yeah,
Question
guys.
number 2.
Question number 2 is, when was the last time Seth Rollins, prior to Clash of the Castle, won a pay-per-view singles match?
I know the answer.
Then say it.
Didn't want to step on his toes. Royal Rumble.
Was Royal Rumble by disqualification.
Yep.
All right.
Roman.
Yeah, a lot of people. I heard somebody ask the same question the other day, and they went all the way back to like fucking 2020. And I was like, dude, he won the fucking match at Royal Rumble. What are you talking about?
He beat Roman Reigns nonetheless.
Yeah, by disqualification. So, but anyway, guys, this was fun having the three of you on here. Different dynamic. Like I said, to all listeners, anybody who wants to jump on the show at any time, follow me on Twitter at BeyondMattWWE. Follow me, even if you don't want to join the show. Like the podcast, give us a 5-star rating and review on all podcast platforms. We're on YouTube, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, everything, anywhere you can listen to podcasts. Send me an email, matt@beyondthemat.com. Give me your feedback, give me your questions. We'll answer them on the show. And we'll certainly have Russ back on anytime he would like to. In fact, Russ and I are trying to plan some retro reviews for you guys. We're looking into the Deadly Games tournament of Survivor Series 98. Give me your best Deadly Games theme impression, Russ.
It's a deadly game. Deadly game. That's right, because I got for right now.
All right. That was actually pretty good. We're going to play the real one when we do it, and it'll be exciting. I hope you guys look forward to that. I've been talking about that for a while. I got a lot of stuff prepared for it, so it'll be a great podcast, and then we'll march on through the Attitude Era pay-per-views after we start off with that one. And other than that, you guys have anything else to add before we close out the show for this evening?
No, great show, Matt, as always. Great ringleading here, and thanks for having us on.
All right, Russ, you got anything that you would like to say to the listeners before we head out?
Nope. Thanks for having me on, man.
All right, thanks for joining me tonight, guys. It was great, and we will catch all listeners later. Thank you so much for joining us, you guys. Remember, follow me on Twitter at BeyondMattWWE, not Beyond the Matt. It's Beyond MattWWE, and Matt at BeyondTheMat.com for email. I will catch you guys on the other side. Enjoy SmackDown and Raw in the coming days.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Mat. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss a show.